The lights flickered aboard the U.S. horizon as another explosion rocked the massive battleship. Lily Carter grabbed the edge of her medical station to steady herself. This was her first real battle since becoming chief medical officer, and it was nothing like the simulations. "All personnel to evacuation stations," blared the ship's eye. "Repeat, all personnel to evacuation stations. This is not a drill." Lily looked around the medical bay. Her team had already moved most of the wounded to the escape shuttles. Blood stained the floor, both red human blood and the strange blue fluid that leaked from their Viridian allies. "Dr. Carter, we need to move now," shouted Nurse Greg Martinez, his face streaked with sweat and grime. "The captain says we have less than 10 minutes before the reactor goes critical." Lily nodded. "Start the final evacuation sequence. I'll do one last sweep for survivors." "There's no time," Greg protested. 5 minutes, Lily said firmly. "Go prep the last shuttle. I'll be right behind you." Greg hesitated, then nodded and ran toward the evacuation bay. Lily grabbed her medical scanner and emergency kit. She moved quickly through the empty corridors, checking each room for life signs. The battle with the Krell had caught everyone by surprise. The alien attackers had appeared from nowhere, targeting both human and Viridian ships without warning. As she rounded a corner into a maintenance corridor, her scanner beeped, a life sign, faint but present. Lily followed the signal until she found a body wedged between two power conduits. It was a Viridian soldier, tall and slender with scaled skin that normally shimmered with health, but now looked dull and ashen. Lily knelt beside the wounded alien. "Can you hear me?" The Viridian's 4 eyes flickered open, all blinking at different rates, a sign of severe distress in their species. The soldier tried to speak, but only a weak clicking sound came from its throat slits. Lily's scanner showed multiple injuries, including a deep gash across the alien's chest, where blue blood seeped through the armor. But what concerned her most was the strange purple discoloration spreading from the wound. "I'm going to get you out of here," she said, knowing the Viridian understood basic English. She activated her comm. "Greg, I found a survivor. Viridian soldier, badly wounded. I need help with transport." "Copy that," came Greg's voice. "But hurry. The Viridians are already pulling out. They're not waiting for stragglers." Lily frowned. That didn't sound right. The Viridians were disciplined and methodical. They wouldn't leave without accounting for all personnel. As she worked to stabilize the wounded alien, Lily heard footsteps. She looked up, expecting to see Greg. Instead, 2 Viridian soldiers stood at the end of the corridor, their weapons drawn. "You must leave," one said in halting English. "Ship not safe." "Help me with him," Lily said, gesturing to their wounded comrade. The Viridians looked at each other, then at their fallen soldier. One of them hissed softly when they saw the purple discoloration. "No," the taller one said. "Not possible." "What do you mean, not possible?" "He's alive," Lily protested. "Infected," the Viridian said simply. "Must be left." Before Lily could argue further, the Viridians turned and left, their footsteps quick and purposeful. Lily stared after them in shock. They had just abandoned their own wounded soldier without a second thought. Another explosion rocked the ship, bringing her back to reality. "Lily, where are you?" Greg's voice came through her comm. "We have to go now." "I'm bringing him," Lily said, making a quick decision. "Help me get him to the shuttle." "Who?" Greg asked. "The Viridian soldier. His own people left him behind." "What? That doesn't make any sense." "I know," Lily said, struggling to lift the alien who was nearly 7 feet tall. "But I'm not leaving him to die." Greg appeared at the end of the corridor, looking frustrated but determined. "The captain will have both our heads," he muttered, but he helped Lily support the wounded Viridian. Together, they half-carried, half-dragged the alien soldier to the last medical shuttle. As they secured him to a bunk, Lily noticed more Viridians watching from across the bay. None moved to help. Instead, they turned away as if they couldn't bear to look. The shuttle doors sealed shut, and they launched from the dying ship. Through the viewport, Lily watched as the U.S. horizon, her home for the past 3 years, erupted in a ball of fire. "What's wrong with them?" Greg asked quietly, nodding toward the unconscious Viridian. "Why would they leave one of their own?" Lily shook her head. "I don't know, but I intend to find out." The refugee vessel U.S. Dauntless was packed beyond capacity. Survivors from 3 destroyed ships crowded every available space. In a converted storage room on the lowest deck, Lily Carter checked the vital signs of her unusual patient. The Viridian soldier lay on a makeshift bed, his blue-scaled chest rising and falling in an uneven rhythm. The purple infection around his wound had spread further, forming web-like patterns across his torso. "How is he?" Greg asked, entering with a tray of medical supplies. "Stable, but the infection is spreading," Lily said, "and I still don't understand why his own people abandoned him." The door slid open again. Dr. Alan Pierce, Lily's direct superior, stood in the doorway with a deep frown on his face. "Carter, we need to talk," he said. "Now." Lily followed him into the corridor. "What were you thinking?" Dr. Pierce asked. "We barely have enough supplies for our human patients, and you're wasting resources on an alien that its own species discarded." "He's a living being who needs help," Lily replied. "Isn't that what we do?" "The Viridian medical officer demanded we turn him over to them," Dr. Pierce said. "They say he's carrying something dangerous." "Then why haven't they taken him?" "That's the strange part. When I offered to transfer him, they refused to even enter the room." Dr. Pierce ran a hand through his thinning hair. "You have 2 days to figure this out before I have to report it to Captain Simmons." After he left, Lily returned to find the Viridian soldier awake. All 4 of his eyes focused on her. "Water," he said in a raspy voice. Lily held a cup to his mouth slits. The alien drank slowly. "My name is Lily Carter. I'm a doctor. Can you tell me your name?" "Castor," he said. "3rd Squad, 2nd Fleet. Do you know what happened to you?" Castor's eyes blinked in sequence, which Lily recognized as their version of nodding. "Infected," he said. "Must die alone. Is our way." "What do you mean?" Lily asked. "What kind of infection requires abandonment?" "The Purple Death. Highly contagious to Viridians. No cure." His breathing became labored. "Why you help? You risk yourself." "The infection doesn't seem to affect humans," Lily said. "And I don't leave patients behind." "Strange human," Castor said. His mouth slits curved slightly in what might have been a smile. Over the next few hours, Lily took samples of the purple infection. Under her microscope, she saw something fascinating. The pathogen wasn't actually attacking Castor's cells directly. Instead, it was triggering his immune system to attack itself. "It's an autoimmune response," she told Greg later. "The pathogen tricks the Viridian immune system into self-destruction." "So why do they abandon the infected?" Greg asked. "Probably because it spreads quickly among them, and they have no treatment," Lily said. "But I've been thinking. Human autoimmune diseases sometimes respond to immunosuppressants. You want to try human medicine on an alien physiology?" Greg looked skeptical. "Not exactly. I want to combine it with something from the Viridian medical supplies." Greg shook his head. "You're going to get us both court-martialed." Despite his complaints, Greg helped Lily sneak into the Viridian medical storage. They found vials of regenerative enzymes used for Viridian wound healing. Back in their makeshift clinic, Lily carefully combined human immunosuppressants with the Viridian enzymes. The resulting mixture glowed faintly blue. "This could kill him," Greg warned. "He's dying anyway," Lily said. "And he knows it." She explained the experimental treatment to Castor, who listened carefully. "If succeed," he asked, "you cure Purple Death?" "Possibly," Lily said. "At the very least, we might learn something that could help others." "Then do," Castor said. "Even if fail, you show kindness. No Viridian would try. As Lily prepared the injection, the ship's intercom crackled. "Dr. Carter to the bridge," came Captain Simmons' voice. Immediately. "Keep him stable," Lily told Greg. "I'll be back as soon as I can." She didn't notice the Viridian officer watching from the shadows as she hurried toward the elevator. The officer spoke quietly into a communicator in his native language. His message was simple. The human doctor knew too much and had to be stopped. Captain Jack Simmons was not a tall man, but his presence filled the bridge of the U.S. Dauntless. He stood with his hands behind his back, looking at the stars through the main viewport. "Dr. Carter," he said without turning, "I understand you've been keeping secrets." Lily swallowed hard. "Sir, I can explain." "Please do." The captain finally faced her. "Explain why you brought an infected Viridian aboard without proper clearance." "He would have died, sir," Lily said. "His own people abandoned him." "There might have been a good reason for that." Captain Simmons nodded to someone behind Lily. She turned to see a Viridian in elaborate armor. He was taller than most, with scales that shimmered with iridescent colors. "This is Commander Shelvac," said Captain Simmons. "He wishes to speak with you about your patient." The Viridian's 4 eyes blinked in different patterns. "The soldier you saved no longer exists in our records," he said in perfect English. "He is dead to us." "He's very much alive," Lily argued, "and I believe I can treat his condition." "Impossible," Shelvac said. "The Purple Death cannot be cured. It is a fact of our biology." "Just because you haven't found a cure doesn't mean one doesn't exist," Lily said. Captain Simmons raised an eyebrow. "Dr. Carter, you're claiming you can cure a disease that has affected the Viridian people for generations." "I'm saying I found something promising," Lily replied. "The pathogen causes an autoimmune response. I've developed a treatment that might control it." "Human medicine cannot work on Viridian biology," Shelvac insisted. "Not alone," Lily agreed, "but I've combined it with Viridian regenerative enzymes." Shelvac's eyes widened. "You stole our medical supplies." "I borrowed them to save a life," Lily said. "A life your people threw away." "You do not understand our ways," Shelvac said. His voice was calm, but Lily could see tension in his posture. "The infected are abandoned for the good of all. It is how we survived as a species." "Maybe that was necessary once," Lily said, "but not anymore. Not if we can find a cure." Captain Simmons looked between them. "Commander Shelvac, what would happen if Dr. Carter succeeds? If she cures this soldier, it would cause—" Shelvac seemed to search for the right word. "Complications. Our society functions on clear rules. The infected are removed from our records. They no longer exist. To bring one back would create disorder." "So this is about maintaining order?" Lily asked. "Not about medicine." "It is about both," Shelvac replied, "but also about respect. You cannot understand our culture after a few days of interaction." Lily took a deep breath. "You're right. I don't fully understand your culture, but I understand suffering, and I can't ignore it, even if your customs say I should." The captain was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Dr. Carter, you have 2 weeks to prove your treatment works. If it doesn't, or if it causes any danger to this ship, I'll have no choice but to follow Viridian protocol." 2 weeks? Lily asked. "Sir, that's not enough time to—" "It's all I can give you," Captain Simmons interrupted. "Commander Shelvac has agreed to this compromise, against the wishes of his leadership." Shelvac's eyes blinked rapidly. "I am curious about human medicine," he admitted, "but I must warn you. If word of this reaches my superiors, they will demand the infected one be removed. Forcibly, if necessary. Then we'll have to work quickly," Lily said. As she left the bridge, her mind raced. 2 weeks to cure a disease that had plagued an alien species for generations. It seemed impossible. When she returned to the makeshift clinic, she found Greg looking worried. "His fever's getting worse," he said. "And there's something else. While you were gone, he told me more about Viridian culture. about why they abandoned the infected. Why? Lily asked. Because they believe the sickness is a punishment, Greg said. Not just a disease, but a judgment from their ancestors. Helping the infected is seen as going against the natural order. Lily looked at Castor, who lay shivering on the bed. Then we'll just have to change their minds, she said, picking up the syringe with her experimental treatment. Starting with him, Lily had not slept properly in days. Dark circles formed under her eyes as she checked Castor's vital signs for the 100th time. The Viridian soldier's condition had improved slightly after the first treatment, but now his body was fighting back, rejecting the medicine. His temperature is rising again, Greg said, looking at the monitor. Maybe we should try a higher dose. Too risky, Lily replied. We don't know enough about Viridian biology to predict how he'll react. The door opened, and a young medical technician named Sam Miller entered. He looked nervous. Dr. Carter, I heard you might need some help, he said. Sam, what are you doing here? Lily asked in surprise. Words getting around, Sam explained, about what you're doing for this alien. Some of us think it's pretty amazing. Dr. Pierce would disagree, Lily said with a small smile. Well, Dr. Pierce isn't here right now, Sam replied. And I used to work in xenobiology before medical school. I might be able to help. Over the next few days, more human medical staff appeared, offering to help in their off hours. They worked in shifts, monitoring Castor and adjusting the treatment. Lily was touched by their support, though they all knew they were risking their careers. On the 5th day, Castor was strong enough to sit up and talk. He watched the humans with curiosity. Why do you all help? He asked. No benefit to you. That's not how we see medicine, Lily explained. We help because it's right, not because it benefits us. Strange concept, Castor said. On my world, everything has purpose. Those who cannot serve are burden. Is that why the infected are abandoned? Sam asked. Castor's eyes blinked in sequence. Yes, long ago, the Purple Death killed many. Resources were scarce. The elders decided infected must be removed so others could live. But you have space travel now, Lily pointed out. Advanced technology. Surely you have enough resources to care for everyone. Old ways become tradition, Castor said. Tradition becomes law. Hard to change. As they talked, Lily learned more about Castor's life. He had been a teacher before joining the military. He had a family, a mate, and 2 young offspring. They now believed he was dead. If I live, he said, I cannot return to them. I am no longer in the records. That's horrible, Lily said. It is our way, Castor replied simply. On the 10th day, disaster struck. Castor's body temperature rose dramatically. His scales turned a dull gray, and he began to convulse. His immune system is crashing, Sam said, checking the readings. The treatment isn't working anymore. Lily felt despair wash over her. After all their efforts, they were losing him. Then she had an idea. What if we're approaching this wrong? She said, we've been trying to suppress his immune response, but what if we redirect it instead? How? Greg asked. Human plasma, Lily said. Our antibodies won't react to his cells, but mixed with Viridian regenerative enzymes, they might help his body recognize the pathogen as the real enemy. That's actually brilliant, Sam said, but it's never been tried before. We don't have a choice, Lily said. She rolled up her sleeve. Use my blood. The procedure was risky. Lily extracted her own plasma and carefully mixed it with the remaining Viridian enzymes. The mixture turned a bright purple color. That can't be good, Greg muttered. Only one way to find out, Lily said. She injected the mixture directly into Castor's chest, near his heart. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Castor's body arched in pain. His eyes flew open, all 4 glowing with an intense light. We're losing him, Sam shouted. The monitors went crazy. Castor's vital signs plummeted, then spiked, then stabilized at a level they hadn't seen before. Slowly, the purple infection began to recede from his scales. The gray color faded, replaced by a healthy blue sheen. Castor's eyes focused on Lily. "What did you do?" he asked weakly. "I think," Lily said, her voice filled with wonder, "I just cured the Purple Death." News of Lily's successful treatment spread quickly through the U.S. Dauntless. By the following morning, Captain Simmons had called an emergency meeting with the Viridian representatives. Lily stood nervously in the conference room. Greg and Sam flanked her like bodyguards. Across the table, Commander Shelvac and two other Viridians watched them with unblinking eyes. "Is it true?" Shelvac asked. "You have cured the Purple Death." "The patient is recovering," Lily said carefully. "The infection is receding, and his vital signs are stable." "Impossible," said one of the other Viridians, an older female with faded scales. "The Purple Death cannot be cured. It is a judgment from the ancestors." "With respect," Lily replied, "it's a disease, a pathogen that triggers an autoimmune response. And yes, it can be treated." Captain Simmons cleared his throat. "Dr. Carter has documented the entire process. The evidence is clear." Shelvac's eyes blinked rapidly, showing his distress. "If this becomes known, there will be consequences. Many will question why we abandoned the infected for generations when a cure was possible." "Because you never looked for one," Greg said bluntly. The captain shot him a warning look, but the damage was done. "Our ways have kept our species strong," the female Viridian said. "The weak are removed so the strong can thrive. This is natural law." "There's nothing natural about letting people die when they could be saved," Sam argued. The third Viridian, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. Perhaps both perspectives have value. All eyes turned to him. He was younger than the others, his scales a brighter blue. "I am Venlar," he introduced himself. "I represent a growing movement among our younger generation. We question the old ways." "Heresy," the female Viridian hissed. "Progress," Venlar corrected. "Dr. Carter, how difficult would it be to reproduce this treatment?" "The basic components are simple," Lily explained. "Human plasma and Viridian regenerative enzymes. The challenge would be producing enough for widespread use." "You cannot seriously be considering this," the female Viridian said to Shelvac. "The High Command will never allow it." Before Shelvac could answer, the ship's communication system chimed. "Captain," came the voice of the communications officer. "We're receiving an urgent message from Viridian High Command. They're demanding to speak with you immediately." Captain Simmons frowned. How did they find out so quickly? All eyes turned to the female Viridian, who looked away. "You reported us," Shelvac realized. "It was my duty," she replied without remorse. The meeting dissolved into chaos. The Viridians began arguing in their own language, their voices rising. Captain Simmons tried to restore order. In the midst of the commotion, Lily felt her communicator vibrate. It was a message from the medical bay. "Castor missing. Come quickly." She slipped out of the conference room, unnoticed, and ran to the makeshift clinic. When she arrived, she found the bed empty and a junior nurse looking frightened. "What happened?" Lily demanded. "A group of Viridians came," the nurse explained. "They said they had orders to take him. I couldn't stop them." Lily's heart sank. All their work, all their progress, gone in an instant. She was about to leave when she noticed something on the floor, a small data chip. She picked it up and inserted it into her tablet. A message appeared. "Storage Bay 7. Come alone. Bring treatment formula." Castor was reaching out to her. But why? And how had he escaped his captors? Lily hesitated only a moment before gathering her medical supplies. She downloaded the treatment formula onto a separate chip and tucked it into her pocket. As she headed toward Storage Bay 7, she didn't notice the shadow following her. Someone else had seen the message too. Someone who wanted to make sure the cure for the Purple Death never left the ship. Storage Bay 7 was dark and filled with shipping containers. Lily moved carefully between the tall metal boxes, her heart beating fast in her chest. Every shadow seemed to hide a threat. "Castor," she called softly. "Are you here?" A scraping sound came from her left. She turned to see the Viridian soldier emerge from behind a container. He looked stronger than before, his scales now a healthy blue. "You came," he said. "Good. What's happening?" Lily asked. "The nurse said Viridians took you." "They did," Castor confirmed. "But not all Viridians follow old ways. Some helped me escape." From the shadows, 3 more Viridians appeared. Lily recognized one of them as Venlar from the meeting. "Dr. Carter," Venlar greeted her. "We don't have much time. A high command has ordered all Viridians to return to our ships immediately." "Why?" Lily asked. "They want to contain what you've discovered," Venlar explained. "If word spreads that the Purple Death can be cured, many will question our leaders. They fear change." "But this could save lives," Lily argued. "That is why we must get the formula to our homeworld," said one of the other Viridians. "There is a growing movement that challenges the old ways. Your cure could tip the balance." Lily hesitated. "I brought the formula, but I'm not sure I should." A loud crash interrupted her. At the entrance to the storage bay, 2 Viridian soldiers appeared, weapons drawn. "Traitors," one of them hissed. "Hand over the human and the formula." Castor pushed Lily behind a container. "Run," he whispered. "Take the back exit. Get to a shuttle." "I'm not leaving you," Lily protested. "You must," Castor insisted. "The cure is more important than any of us." The sound of energy weapons firing filled the bay. Venlar and his companions were fighting back against the soldiers. Lily knew she had only moments to escape. She ran toward the back of the storage bay, clutching the data chip in her hand. As she reached the exit, she heard a cry of pain. Looking back, she saw Castor fall to the ground, hit by a weapon blast. Without thinking, she turned around and ran back to him. The fighting continued around them as she dragged his large body behind a container for cover. "Why did you come back?" Castor asked weakly. "I told you before," Lily said, examining his wound. "I don't leave patients behind." The blast had hit him in the shoulder, burning through scales and tissue. It wasn't fatal, but it was serious. Lily pulled medical supplies from her kit and began treating him. More Viridians entered the bay, some supporting the traditionalists, others fighting with Venlar. The storage bay had become a battleground for the future of their society. As Lily worked to save Castor, the ship's alarms began to sound. "Attention all personnel," came Captain Simmons' voice over the speakers. "Unauthorized fighting has broken out on Deck 5. Security teams to Storage Bay 7 immediately. All Viridians are ordered to stand down." "Too late," Castor said. "Once begun, this conflict cannot be stopped." Lily finished bandaging his wound. "Can you walk?" Castor nodded and struggled to his feet. Together, they moved toward a side exit, trying to avoid the fighting. Suddenly, the female Viridian from the meeting appeared in front of them, holding a weapon. "The formula," she demanded. "Give it to me now." "So you can destroy it?" Lily asked. "Never." "Foolish human," the Viridian said. "You don't understand what you've done. Our entire society is built on the principle that the weak must not burden the strong. Your cure threatens everything." "Your society is built on a lie," Lily replied. "The infected aren't weak. They're just sick, and they can be healed." The Viridian raised her weapon. Last chance. Before she could fire, a blast hit her from behind. She fell forward, revealing Greg standing at the doorway with the security team. "Thought you might need some help," he said to Lily with a grim smile. 6 months had passed since the conflict aboard the U.S. Dauntless. Lily stood in the observation room of Unity Station, a new joint facility built between human and Viridian space. Through the large window, She watched ships from both species dock and depart peacefully. "Quite a view, isn't it?" said a familiar voice. Lily turned to see Castor approach. He looked healthier than ever, his scales gleaming with vibrant blue colors. He wore the insignia of the newly formed Viridian Medical Exchange Program. "I was just thinking about how much has changed," Lily said. "6 months ago, your people were ready to kill for the formula. Now we're working together." "Change is never easy," Castor replied, "but necessary. Thanks to you, the first batch of vaccines has been distributed to 3 Viridian colonies." After the confrontation in Storage Bay 7, Captain Simmons had called an emergency meeting with both human and Viridian leadership. With Venlar's support, the progressive faction of Viridians had gained enough power to force negotiations. The result was a compromise. The cure for the Purple Death would be shared, but gradually. Traditional Viridians would have time to adjust to the changes in their society. "How many have been saved so far?" Lily asked. "Over 5,000, Castor said. "And more importantly, no one is being abandoned anymore. The infected are treated with care now." The door to the observation room opened, and Greg entered. He now wore the uniform of a senior medical officer. "The delegates are ready for your presentation," he told Lily. "There's a lot of excitement about the new research." Lily nodded. She had been studying how the combination of human and Viridian medicine might treat other diseases. Her work had opened an entirely new field of cross-species medical treatment. "Have you heard from your family?" she asked Castor as they walked toward the conference room. A shadow crossed his face. "My mate has allowed me to see our offspring, but she needs more time. In her mind, I was dead. My return is difficult for her." "I'm sorry," Lily said. "Do not be," Castor replied. "Once, I would have had no hope at all. Now I have a chance to rebuild what was lost." The conference room was filled with representatives from both species. At the front stood Commander Shelvac, who had surprised everyone by supporting the medical exchange program. "Today marks a new chapter in relations between our peoples," Shelvac announced as Lily and Castor entered. "What began as one human's refusal to abandon a wounded soldier has led to a partnership that will benefit generations to come." The crowd applauded. Lily felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment. She wasn't used to being the center of attention. Before Dr. Carter presents her findings, Shelvac continued, "I wish to honor a tradition from my own people, one worth keeping." He approached Castor and Lily with a small ceremonial knife. Before Lily could react, he made a quick cut on his own palm. Blue blood welled up from the wound. In the old days, Viridians formed blood bonds only with those who proved their worthiness in battle. Shelvac explained, "Today we recognize that healing takes as much courage as fighting." He offered the knife to Castor, who made a similar cut on his palm. Then, to Lily's surprise, Castor handed the knife to her. "It is your choice," he said quietly. Lily hesitated only briefly before making a small cut on her own palm. The 3 of them pressed their hands together, 2 blue with alien blood, 1 red with human. "From this day forward," Shelvac declared, "Dr. Lily Carter is recognized as clan kin to the House of Tor. Her name will be recorded in our histories as the one who taught Viridians that compassion is not weakness, but strength." As their mixed blood sealed the bond, an alarm suddenly blared throughout the station. The room fell silent as Captain Simmons' voice came over the speakers. "All personnel to battle stations. Krell ships have been detected entering the system. This is not a drill." Lily looked at Castor, who stood tall and ready. "It seems," he said, "we will need both healers and warriors today." "Then it's a good thing," Lily replied with a smile, "that we no longer abandon anyone."